Hello.
All right, so we want to talk today about teaching and protecting your kids. Yeah.
Look at the sky behind us, you guys, though. Isn't it gorgeous out today? We just have to take a moment to enjoy this beautiful day. It's so incredible. It actually doesn't really feel like Maryland weather, I don't think.
Very
it's
nice.
Like not humid. It's beautiful. So anyway, that's why we're filming outside. We had to enjoy a little bit of it. Hopefully you can too. So yeah, we're talking about protecting and teaching your kids. You want me to?
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about that balance of, allowing certain kinds of suffering in your children's lives, the kind of suffering that produces character, the balance between that and, protecting them from other kinds of sufferings, learning to make those distinctions, and how you can also turn these into good opportunities to teach your children.
Yeah, so we all want our kids to grow and develop. We want them to be successful. We want them to be well-adjusted. We want to know that they're contributing members of society one day. We want to know that they know how to love, they know how to learn, they know how to lose, all these things. And so there's always this kind of struggle between, like, how much do we let them suffer and how much do we protect them against suffering? And where's that line? And typically as parents, it's like a spectrum. Like, some of us are gonna like always protect them in every situation from any kind of hurt, right? You can think of parents, maybe you're one of those parents, that, I don't want them to hurt, I'm gonna pull them right out of that, right? And that's tough, because suffering produces character. It does, and it's a necessary part of the growing up process. So it's really important that we allow for some of that. And then there's the case where we say, we're just going to let some of us parents fall on the other end of the spectrum, where it's like, we're going to let them live and experience everything. We're not going to interfere, and we're going to, empower them. We're going to be their friend even. We're not going to step in and intervene. Maybe we don't have eyes to see when they're in trouble. Maybe we don't really have time to pay attention. And I think that can be a real disservice to kids too. So we're hoping to just kind of shed a little bit of light on, again, these are our thoughts, our meditations on this, and we love hearing your feedback. We have 3 kids, and we've also have our own personal experiences of, from childhood and working with kids. We've both worked with kids. Before we did the studio, I've worked with troubled youth. And you learn a lot when you watch and hear the stories of things that kids have experienced.
And I would say this right off the bat is that although suffering produces character, it's really not always the case. Right? Like, you have to teach people to allow suffering to produce character. You have to, because it's the same thing, we teach Jiu-Jitsu and martial arts, and there's a lot of suffering that goes on in martial arts and Jiu-Jitsu, with the submissions and the tap out and all that. It always provides the opportunity for humility and other virtues, but not everybody who practices Jiu-Jitsu is going to take advantage of that opportunity. So when they're tapping out, or sometimes they'll fight to the death not to tap out, and they're relying on the kindness of their partner not to injure them, or they'll make excuses or whatever. They're not taking advantage of the opportunity to learn from their mistakes and to learn humility, to correct what happened right there. And they say you either win or you learn. It's not always the case with everybody. It's something that you have to actually be kind of taught how to do. And I think parents with their children, when children go through suffering, if that's not processed through, they might not learn how to take suffering, process it, and turn it into a learning situation, right? And when you learn that, then suffering produces character. You're going to make it produce character. And when you lose, you learn. But that's not always the case. And I think that we can all agree on that. You've seen people who lose and learn, and you see people who lose and then it's a show after that, right? It becomes you can see the pride, and you can see that, okay, they're just never going to learn. You know what I mean?
Or they
pout, make excuses, or whatever it is. So it's not always the case. So I think that having that intentional, particularly right now I'm talking about with your children, okay, allowing for them to suffer to a certain extent with certain things, but then taking that and processing through with them, and teaching them how to learn and grow from the suffering is such a great thing.
And so we wanted to tell like a little story. So first of all, bad suffering for children is when they're being victimized. Okay, if they're being exploited or victimized, this is bad suffering. This is something that no child should ever experience. And our job as their parents, we're also coaches and teachers, our goal should always be to protect kids from that sort of treatment. So recently I took our younger son into a doctor's appointment, and he's really scared of the doctor. And so he went in with trepidation, and the first thing they kind of said to him was, hey, mom stays here, we'll take you back. He's 8 years old, and he's right away, he was so upset, so scared, terrified, really, I would even say. And the whole experience turned out to be really difficult for him, to where he said, Mama, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to go into the office. I'm not going back there. And the nursing staff who was trying to get him, coax him in, basically kind of said, well, we have to cancel and reschedule this appointment. So they punished him. The way they were speaking about it, there was no empathy. There was no consideration for what he was feeling. He was pretty much deemed naughty, in a sense, for not following protocol, for slowing them up. I don't think my son's goal was to mess up their schedule that day. He didn't show any signs of not being willing to do it until he got in there and got scared. And they really, I felt like, didn't treat him well in that situation at all. I saw it happening as they were speaking to him. I knew what they were doing. It was a punishment in order to coerce him to do what they wanted him to do. Not a very effective strategy. It didn't go over well with him. It didn't go over well with me. And I basically did, say, okay, we're not successful today. I rescheduled the appointment so we could try for a week later, which he ultimately was successful with. But I did call in, and I knew that he was suffering by the way they were treating him. And they weren't giving me much of a chance to try to work with him either. And I knew that was happening. And I knew that probably didn't make him feel good, but I did let it happen. I didn't stand up for him in that moment, because I wanted him to develop some muscles, some resiliency, some ability to be able to suffer and figure out what to do next. And but I was aware of it. My eyes weren't closed to the situation, and that it was not okay how he was being treated. So before his next appointment, a week later, I called in and I said to them, I really did feel like he was afraid, and could we ask for a little bit extra time for him to get adjusted? And is there anyone in that office who maybe really likes working with children and could be empathetic to the fact that he's afraid? And they absolutely bent over backwards and did a fabulous job of, yes, we will make sure this is a great appointment for him. It was the first appointment in this new office where we were going to have multiple visits upcoming. And so I really didn't want him to be terrified for the rest of the experience or not be able to complete it. And so there was a situation where, as his overseer, as his caretaker, as his steward, I stepped up and said, on his behalf, I would like to try to make this a better situation for him. But I didn't get angry, and I was a little bit upset for sure how they treated them on that first visit, but I was aware of what was happening. If it had continued, we wouldn't have gone there anymore. We would have found a new place. And I think it was really important. And I shared that. We had a conversation with all three of our kids together, and we affirmed for them that absolutely Mom and Dad will always have your back, and we will always protect you. No matter what, we're going to make sure that nobody exploits you, that nobody is maliciously, intentionally hurting you. We will help to identify those situations to the best of our ability. And we also want you to be able to learn how to see how people are interacting with you. And we want you to be able to identify, what do you think this person's intent is? Are they having a bad day? We have to show grace for that. People have bad days. Or is somebody really not looking out for my best interest? And I believe, and I think you do too, that even at very young ages, we've had these conversations with our kids. I mean, we have a self-defense studio. It's part of just the lingo. That you need to be protective of yourself, and you need to watch and look around. Does this person look suspicious? Does this situation feel unhealthy? Does something about it not feel safe? And then you act on that, because teaching kids to trust their intuitions about situations is one of the most powerful and important skills that you can help them to learn. And I encourage parents, teachers, coaches to really have the back of your kids. Let them know you have their back, and let them know that suffering's part of this life journey, and that we will let things happen, but only to a point. And we will step up when it's necessary to make sure that you're protected. Because I think more than anything, kids want to know that somebody cares enough to protect them.
Yeah, and I think that within that, one of the main points is to make sure that you are processing with your children, because we try to do talks on communication, and this has a lot to do with communicating with your children. And I mean, we'll even sometimes, we'll watch a movie, and then we'll kind of process the movie with them, like what was good about it, what was bad. Not, I mean, like as far as characters and what was going on, do you think that person had good intentions, bad intentions? Who would you want to be more like? Those kind of things, just to get them thinking about. And we don't tell them, they just answer questions, and get them thinking and processing what they see and what they feel and know to be right or wrong, all the same when it comes to relationship and how people are being treated, so that they know when they're being treated properly or improperly. It's important for them to know that and to feel that. So processing that with them helps them to process it as well, and it's good self-defense, really. It's when we talk about self-defense in other videos, it's self-defense is not just learning fighting techniques. It's a way of life. You're not just trying to defend yourself in a street fight from an attacker. You are way less likely to do that and have to defend yourself that way. I've been doing martial arts for 35 years, and I've never really had to do that. I have been in altercations where I could verbally get out of it, but and the self-defense helped out with that and the confidence. But every day I'm being attacked somehow by social media, just by relationship, whatever it may be, just society, culture. There are so many things that are prepared to attack your mind, attack your heart. We've talked about diet even, that attacks your body, having a healthy or an unhealthy diet. There's just so many ways, you get in your car, you put your seatbelt on, that's self-defense, you're protecting yourself. So there's so many ways to practice self-defense, and learning to process internally and communicate behaviors in relationship and is also just a very important way to learn to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Many people allow for unhealthy boundaries in relationships because they've never necessarily been told or taught that's not healthy and it's not good. So that's a very important concept to share with your children, so that they know at a young age that this is inappropriate and it's not good. And if people want to treat you that way, they're not your friend. You know, so you know, then teach them what they can do about that. You know, we never ever promote, you know, overcoming bullies by becoming a bully. You know, even in the physical aspect, there's a gentle, loving, and yet bold way to be that is important to learn and takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, I think too, when you stand up for children, you could be standing up, and I'm saying children now because that's sort of our topic, but this could be for anyone who has trouble standing up for themselves, who could potentially be a victim. This could be an elderly neighbor, or someone who's compromised in some way. Maybe it's a coworker that you see that's not being treated well. What you're saying to them by standing up for them is you're saying, you have value to me. You are valuable enough for me to protect you and to see that there's nobody on earth who should be treating you like that. And there's nothing more loving that you can say to somebody than, I care enough about you to protect you. I believe that wholeheartedly. And when we went recently to Nicaragua, we were going there with that intent to tell these women and these children, there was orphans, that you have value. And Luke did a fabulous job over there when we were teaching the women. I could tell the women they have value, and that would be, I think, you know, meaningful. But to have a man, you know, an American man, come over there and say to these young girls who had been exploited, several of them, even the adult women who were there, who were being regularly, I can't say that word, regularly abused, beaten by their husbands, by men in their life, to say to them, we love you and you have value. Nobody should treat you like that. You can't do anything so wrong that someone deserves to punch you, to hit you, to call you names, to sexually assault you.
That was worth the whole trip. I mean,
that was, yeah.
You know, we told them, we flew all the way here to tell you that we love you and that you're valuable enough for us to come here and to try to teach you how to defend yourself. Yeah. You know, that alone, I think, is very empowering for anybody. Yeah.
We were recently at a tournament, too, and, you know, there was a team that was rough on, I think they kind of played too rough in the way that they were coaching their kids. And some of our students were having matches against these kids. And I at one point, I just had to step in and say, no, this is not okay. One of our kids got really hurt. And the other team, the leader of the other team, tried to smooth talk over some unnecessary roughness that was being done to our students. And I said, it's not okay. This is not okay. I was actually feeling empathetic for the other team's students, because I felt like they were being encouraged to be rough. That's not a fair fight. That's not good fighting. One of the talks that we did over there was teaching, this is in Nicaragua, and what we do every day at the Clinch is to say there is a fight that's worth fighting. It's a good fight. And it's a fight where you're fighting to be a warrior. And what a warrior does is he protects those around him. He protects himself. He understands that he's valuable, she's valuable, and they spend their life protecting those around them. And if we all did that, can you imagine what problems would just dissipate? How much less violence and hurt and pain there would be if we could just look at someone in our life, anyone that you're around, and say, you're worth protecting verbally, protecting emotionally, protecting physically. and just telling them, you mean something to me. So I encourage all of you guys who are listening. There's so many people listening today. Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. Anyone who listens to this video later, we challenge you to find a couple people in your life that you can really make that commitment to go beyond that. Find dozens of people in your life, everyone that you would consider family. We have a huge Clinch family that honestly I would lay my life down for any one of them. Kids, adults, like no questions asked. It makes me emotional to even think about it, because the idea that anyone that we care about would be exploited is just, it's horrible to think about. Even in Nicaragua, we didn't know any of these kids. We had no personal connection to any of them. And the idea that they were being exploited made us, get on a plane and get over there, because it's just not okay. And I think it's really important that all of us do that. And if we all do that and we call out, hey, something about this isn't right, I think we'll see a huge change in our society, in our community. We could just start with Frederick. We can see what difference we can make in that way.
Yeah, very good. So, yeah, thanks for watching, you guys. Shout out some names here: Crystal, Chris, Bauer, what's up? Betty, Chastity, how are you doing? Heather, Ian, Jason, thanks for watching, you guys. Please like and please share. Hope you guys were able to learn something. Again, one of the reasons why we do these videos is because it helps us learn as well. Sometimes, the thinking through of the videos, and sometimes during the actual video, we're actually learning things. So, and then obviously from your comments and thoughts as well, help us learn and, open up some more things to talk about. So appreciate you guys watching. Please like it, please share it, and yeah, let's protect and let's teach our children, about healthy and unhealthy things in life, in general, but in relationships, it's very important, and boundaries and so forth. And I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about this kind of topic, but
if there's anything you specifically want us to talk about or weigh in on, just let us know. Send a message, and we're happy to weigh in on anything. Even if we don't know what to say, we could start the conversation and try to sort through it. So.
And just to be clear, one more time, suffering, I believe that suffering produces character, but at the same time, that's not always true. It's something that you have to be taught, it's something that you have to learn, and then suffering can be a great learning tool. So I don't promote withholding all suffering by any means. I think that we need to be strengthened through suffering, and shaped and molded through suffering. But I do think that certain kinds of suffering specifically we need to be very aware of, and that is just unhealthy. And we also need to defend and protect our children from those things. So, it's not that we want to overprotect, and we also certainly don't want to underprotect. You got to find a healthy place to be within that itself. All right, you guys, thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Got evaluations going on tonight. Hope to see more people on the mat again like Monday. It was awesome. See you then.